Hey guys, welcome back to Pulp Hero Audio. Today I'm going to be uh, talking a bit about some of my thoughts and impressions about Robert E. Howard's Conan story, Beyond the Black River. Now, I think Beyond the Black River is probably accounted as one of the better Conan stories. Certainly one of the more popular Conan stories among Conan fans and just sword and sorcery readers in general. So I really don't think there's any need to go into much depth or discussion about how good of a story, the writing, and that kind of thing, because I think that almost goes without saying when you look at all of Howard's Conan stories. Now, this story deals a lot with Conan encountering a group of people called the Picts. Now, of course, in Howard's Hyborian age, the Picts are kind of their own thing, but that name, that word, Picts, you can find that in history, in antiquity. The Picts, were a thing. They were a people, and it's very defined who and what they were and where they were located and that kind of thing. And I don't discount the historical references and that kind of thing, the historical influences that I'm sure Howard is drawing upon with his picks. But at the same time, I think that Beyond the Black River may be, in my opinion, even though you've got these Pictish, Celtic, European influences, still yet I feel like Beyond the Black River may be the most American Conan story that Robert E. Howard ever wrote, because I can't help but see and feel in reading this that the Picts become something different. The Picts essentially stand in for Native Americans, the American Indian tribes, because we've got this whole frontier sort of setting as civilization is pushing its way into these people's territory, and naturally these people are fighting back. And I can't help but see many parallels between what is going on in Beyond the Black River as Aquilonia is pushing the boundaries of the frontier. And again, I know, Aquilonia, the Roman Empire, the Picts, the Celts, the barbarian people. I know all that. I see all that as well, and I don't discount any of that. But still, everything from the feathers that they wear, the Picts in my mind, I can't get that image, that concept of the American frontier as the United States, even before the United States, even when it was still just British colonies, pushing more and more into the frontier, and the conflicts and the struggles that arose between those frontiersmen, those settlers, and those native tribes that they encountered. And I think, it presents it in a way that maybe in the past it hasn't been portrayed, and not even in the way that it's portrayed now. I mean, if you go back and look at old movies and things about the American frontier and that kind of thing, usually it seems that, if you want to make it as simplistic as possible, cowboys and Indians, the cowboys are always the good guys, if you will, and the Indians are bloodthirsty, and they're going to scalp their enemies and that kind of thing. And then, of course, you fast forward to modern day sensibilities, and we've seen the kind of shift now as the Native Americans are presented as the quote unquote good guys, defending their homes, defending their land, defending their culture, as this invading people encroaches upon their territory, threatening their very way of life. And what I like about Beyond the Black River is, with the best of stories, it seems to present both sides. It shows a balance. It shows a humanity on both sides. Yes, these Aquilonians, they are invaders. They are encroaching into these people's ancestral homelands, but yet, the settlers there, many of them just, ordinary families, men with wives and children, families, just looking to establish a better life in a new territory. I'm sure that they're not thinking about all of the consequences and the ramifications of what the Aquilonian Empire is doing to this people. They're just doing what they feel is best for them and their family. And then there's the picked raids, and people are killed. Are they innocent people? It's kind of a gray area, and I think that is what makes this such a good story, and what makes stories like it so good, is that you do see that gray. It's not so black and white that these are the good guys, these are the bad guys, and you can see the humanity, you can see the struggle, you can see the conflict. You can see the point of view to a certain extent on both sides, be it the Aquilonian settlers or the Picts in their homeland. And then you've got Conan kind of caught in the middle, if you will. Conan just doing what he's doing for money, for pay, that kind of thing. And then you've got, the very real people, the Picts, this is their homeland, and then these settlers, these families who are trying to establish a life in this wilderness, on this frontier. And for the most part, a lot of them seem to just want to be, left alone to farm and raise families. And yet there is all of this conflict that goes on. And I thought that Howard told that story very well. And again, I think, for all of the European, the Celts, the Roman Empire, the Picts of antiquity, for all of that, I still very much see America, I really see this as very much an American tale in a lot of respects when I read Beyond the Black River. And I think that just goes along with Howard, being an American writer, living in rural Texas, kind of in the last days of the frontier. And I think you can see influences from, James Fenimore Cooper, the Leatherstocking Tales, Deerslayer, Pathfinder, Last of the Mohicans, those kind of stories. I can really see the strong influence there. And, all of these things just worked together and melded together to produce a really great story. One of the best of Howard's Conan stories, and I think that most Conan fans would probably agree with that this is one of the better Conan stories, and it's one that I continue to enjoy very much. So yeah, just kind of a short video here, just a few thoughts, a few musings, if you will, about Beyond the Black River, which again, a very American story. Despite being set in Hyboria, in the Hyborian Age, despite all of the European influences, and despite how many of Howard's tales, takes us to exotic lands that are, reminiscent of Africa, Egypt, India, and places like that, I think Beyond the Black River really kind of brings it back home. It brings it back home to the American frontier, and that conflict between the natives who had lived there for untold centuries, and these newcomers, these settlers that were setting up shop in their homeland. Just one final thought. In a lot of the Conan stories, you often have a supporting character of some kind that kind of shares in Conan's adventure. Often this is some, beautiful, scantily clad woman. In this case, we don't get that. There is no woman. There's no love interest here. Instead, we get Balthus. We get a male bonding type of thing. Balthus, to me, was definitely one of Howard's strongest supporting characters from any of his stories. And certainly one of his strongest male supporting characters, as Conan so often, just completely overshadows every other man in the story, which, I mean, he should. He's Conan, he's the hero. But Balthus was really well presented, and I don't think I ever felt as emotionally attached to any other supporting character the way I did to Balthus. Not to mention the dog Slasher that was with him as well. And when Balthus and the dog Slasher, when they made that stand, when they sacrificed themselves there at the end to protect some of those settlers, to give them time to get out of the area before the Picts arrived to massacre them and destroy their homes. That last stand by Balthus, that really got to me. I mean, that was pure heroism on so many levels. Howard really created a great supporting character in Balthus, and I think I would even go as far as to say in Beyond the Black River, Conan is still Conan. Conan is great. Conan's heroic. Love Conan. But in this story, in Beyond the Black River, I almost feel like Balthus is the real hero of this story. And to me, he stands as one of Howard's greatest supporting characters, supporting heroes in any Conan story. Not to mention the dog as well, there at the end. And it is in Beyond the Black River that we get one of the most often quoted passages from Howard, from any of his Conan stories. And I kind of want to close with reading that passage in which it says, "Barbarism is the natural state of mankind. Civilization is unnatural. It is a whim of circumstance, and barbarism must always ultimately triumph." And I think that passage that closes Beyond the Black River really goes to the heart of Howard's overarching theme in all of his Conan work. This idea that as noble an idea as civilization is a struggle. It's a fight. You know, barbarism so often, more often than not, that's exactly what's going to win out. Whether it be Picts on the frontier or Aquilonians, even though they are representative of civilization, just think of the barbarism that was required to create that civilization, to push that civilization beyond their borders into the frontier. And I think it was the same way when civilization was brought to the native lands in what is today the United States of America. Every mile they pushed into the frontier, every bit of railroad track that was laid, bringing civilization. It was a constant struggle against the quote unquote barbarism of the natives. But even to achieve that civilization, it took barbarism. It took barbaric acts to get that done, and blood was shed on both sides, and no party is truly innocent. No one is really the good guy. It's not so clear cut, not so black and white. There's an awful lot of gray beyond the Black River. So, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.